All right, so shalom, right? Um, First and foremost, I want to start off by saying Brakathon, Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah, and I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah Bahashim Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and shout out to the whole few left stone, the 144,000. All right, so we good on sound and whatnot, right? So, Lord willing, uh, you know, as I was watching Elder Apostle Aron lesson, it's titled "The Beast with Seven Heads and Ten Horns," and I'm around like 10 minutes in, and the spirit hit me right because he was going into Daniel 7 for a beast. He started talking about how Romans, the four beasts, right? And we go to that real fast. We go to that real fast, just real fast, right? Daniel 7, right? And we'll start at verse 3. It says, "And the four beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one another." And Daniel 7 and 17, it was talking about, right? The angel was telling Daniel this vision, right? It says, verse 17 says, "These great beasts, which are four kings or four kingdoms, which shall arise out of the earth." So, right, Daniel actually saw beasts, but these beasts are representation. That's why you gotta have the understanding. You gotta have the vision, right? Most I say, well, there's no vision, people perish. You gotta have the vision to understand, right? A little willing. For lack of time, I'm trying to knock it out before we ready to head down here, talk for this game, but little we'll touch on as much as we can right now, and then we'll finish it later, part two, right? But so this is right here, Daniel 7, we'll start at verse 3, right? It says, "And the four beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one another. So the first was like a lion, it had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it lifted up from the earth, right? And made stand upon the feet as a man, and the heart was given to it, right? So that lion, this was the Assyrians, right? The lion with the eagle's wings, that's the Assyrians, right? And the Babylonian king was Assyrian, right? This is the descendant of the Assyrian Empire, right? So the first beast was the Assyrian, right? If I'm not mistaken, the second beast is the right. It says another beast, a second like unto a bear. It's the Persians, right? Uh, Khan. So this is the Persian, right? It says another beast, a second like unto a bear. It raised up itself on one side, and it had three ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said this unto it: Arise, devour much flesh. Right. So those three ribs, right, is Babylon, right, Mesopotamia, right, Egypt, the Nile Valley, and India, Indus Valley, right. So this is the Persian coming into power, right. The second beast, right. The third beast is the Greeks, right. It says, "After this I beheld, lo, another, like unto a leopard, which had upon the back of it four wings of a fowl." Those four wings of a fowl. So the beast also had four heads, and the men was given two of those four heads, or those top generals, right? So the third beast is the Greeks, right? And the four main generals, right? The four heads: Ptolemy, Cassander, Seculus, and Antigonus, right? So then the fourth beast, right? It says, after this I saw in the night visions and beheld a fourth beast. Right. Yesterday I went into a lesson and I was reading how when John the Baptist, he was seeing that scarlet colored beast. He seen a woman on a scarlet colored beast, and I was breaking down how that beast was not talking about America, but America comes from that beast. So you have to understand. What we're gonna get into. As you can read, it says, "After this I saw the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, right? Dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth." Because I think it's about some Daniel 2 as well, right? Rome came with the iron, iron thing. Rome came with the iron and metal and whatnot, right? That's why they was more fierce than the other kingdoms, because they had iron weapons and whatnot, right? And it says, "It devoured and broke in pieces and stamped the residue with feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and had 10 horns." Because we understand that, so all the other beasts was monarchy, right? They had one king, and that king, the king passed down to his son and whatnot. But you had the first triumvirate, right? Where Julius Caesar, Ptolemy, and let me make sure I got it right. And I want to say I think hold up. Uh, right? Yeah. So it's Julius Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus, right? And those are the three. When you have the 12 Caesars, the 12 feathers, and the three heads, it was Julius Caesar in the middle, right? And you have Pompey and Crassus. But when you understand it, right, they changed the first triumvirate because they all had somewhat that power, right? But Julius Caesar was more he was known more. He had more popularity, and they was hating on Julius Caesar because they felt like he was coming with that dictatorship, that monarchy type, right? So they got rid of him, right? But that's when they come with the Senate, the vote, and whatnot, which America mimics that today, right? So that's why it was more different than the other beats because it came with more of a voting and picking one person rule for a certain amount of time. You see how we have a president that rule for this term, and that's thing we do a revote or whatnot, right? So it ain't just one person just rule and they pass down his family. They changed that. Rome came different. That's why it was diverse from the other beasts, right? It says, not consider the horns they beheld, there came up another little horn. Now this is going into America. The other little horn talking about America, which comes from that fourth beast, right? And before whom there were three of the first horns plucked by roots, and behold, in this horn were like eyes of a man, and the mouth speaking great things. So that's that, you know. So the 10 horns of the EU, right? The EU, right? The European Union. When you go to the beast with the 7 heads, 10 horns of the EU, right? The European Union, right? It says the other little horns of America that come out of the European Union, right? We understand the Great Britain, right? The Great Britain Revolutionary War, the French American War, the Spanish American War, right? And it says, so I'm gonna read verse 8 again. It says, and I consider the horns and beheld there came up another little horn, right? America, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this little horn like eyes of a man and mouth speaking great things, right? You know, and even this, just talk about how they come with they come with great signs and wonders and miracles. They doing these things, they'll be able to see the whole world. That's what Most High allowed them to do, to be deceived, but they're only going to see those 2/3. America's only going this America, which is ran by Esau, is only going to be deceived those ones who not be able to who are not of that chosen, for lack of better words, right? It says, and I beheld till the thorns were cast down, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days. The Ancient of Days talking about Yahweh, right? I mean, Ancient of Days, that mean no beginning, no end, right? It says, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his hair was like pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, his will as burning fire, right? So then you see this vision, it ain't happy yet. Yahweh gonna be here in spirit. Yahweh Shai is coming here in the angels, right? They're gonna come and bring destruction on this place, which we're gonna get into, right? It says one of the titles of the Heavenly Father is Ancient of Days, meaning he has no beginning or no end. So we know that fourth beast is the Roman Empire, right? And you have that little horn which kind of that fourth beast, which is America, right? So when you go to, let's go to Revelation 13 real fast, right? And we'll read verse 2, Revelation 13:2, right? It says, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, right? So we read that leopard was in Daniel 7, right? That leopard was who? That beast that Daniel saw was who? Matter of fact, Slock it. Before I go into that, I wanted to read Daniel 2 real fast. Just to touch on, with Rome with the iron and whatnot, right? This is Daniel 2 and 40, right? It says, in the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaks into pieces to do all things, and iron that breaketh all the things, they shall break in pieces and bruise, because Rome, the fourth kingdom, right? That fourth kingdom, right, which is Rome, right? They had strong weapons made out of iron, right? As we read in verse 7, right? That's why they came different, right? It came different with the vote and whatnot. And they had iron weapons and whatnot. It was more fierce. It was more stronger than the other kingdoms, right? It was coming on hard, right? And it says, whereas thou sawest the feet and the toes, part of potter's clay and part iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it the strength of iron, for as much they saw the iron mixed with mirrored clay, and that's the disagreements between the nations and the whatnot, right? So it says the clay and iron is showing how they don't all agree with each other, right? That's what makes them weak. They always going against each other, right? So the defeat is the last leg of the Roman Empire, reborn of the Roman Empire. NATO, the Italian word for NATO is reborn, right? But that clay and iron is showing you how they all don't agree with each other, right? You got NATO, but they don't all stand on the same accord, right? Because you got to think, Just for instance, Ukraine want to join NATO, but America don't want Ukraine to join because they don't want to go against Russia because Russia and Ukraine at war. You see things, so they don't all. That iron that's the iron mixed with that clay, right? He says, and the toes of the feet were part of iron and part clay. So the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And we understand a kingdom that's divided should not stand. They don't stand with each other, right? And that's why it's gonna be so much. That's why it's gonna be a big war. That's why they're gonna go against each other. It's gonna be a World War III if they don't fight against each other, right? Eventually, Joel chapter 2, right? World War III, and eventually that's when Yahweh shall come ready and destruction on them. But the point was really, about that fourth kingdom, should be strong as iron because they have an iron weapon and whatnot, right? And then understanding, right, how the iron mixed with clay of how they don't agree with each other, they don't stand with each other, right? So let's go back to Revelation chapter 13 and verse 2, right? And the reader says, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. So that leopard, at Daniel 76, that third beast was the Greeks because Edomites came into power through the Greeks, right? And it says that his feet were as the feet of a bear. That bear, the bear is Russia, right? So it started with the reason why it says feet because the Greeks was the beginning when Esau came into power, right? And it says the feet was the bear. It was like in his feet were as the feet of a bear because Russia's going to be the end of it. Russia's going to be the one who Russia's gonna be who bring that destruction on them just as well as when Yahweh shall come and totally wipe them out. But Russia's gonna bring that perdition on them as well, right? It says his mouth is the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power, his seeking great authority. Because we understand America's in that top seat of the rising Roman Empire, right? That lion, right? It says the mouth is a representation of the British Empire because Americans get that marching orders from England, right? Behind the scenes, it don't look like England in charge, but they still in charge because when America broke away from Great Britain, it wasn't really, it was weak at the time. That's how America got away so easy. It was weak at the time. You can read about that Revelation 17 in verse, I read it real fast. Bear with me. Oh, right here, Revelation 17:10 says that there are 7 kings, right? Greece, Greeks, the Romans, uh, the Spanish, the French, Germany Major, Germany Minor, which is Germany today, and Great Britain, right? So it says, so you have there are 7 kings, the 5 are fallen, right? So the 5 are fallen are the Greeks, right? The Spanish, the French, and Germany Major, which is Germany today, right? Germany Major, Germany Minor, these are the 5 that's fallen, right? So it says, and the one is right because that's the Romans, right? Because the Romans are in charge. The Romans are in rulership, right? When John having his vision, right? But he see them go out. He in the vision they in rulership when he writing this, but he see them go out of rulership and then come back in to America, right? That's when we go up to verse 8, right? It says, and the beast that thou sawest. The beast that thou sawest was and is not inside the sea of the bottomless pit and is going to perdition because that's talking about America. Because he see when he writing he's Romans in power, but they go out of rulership and they come back through rulership through America, right? Out of that bottomless pit, come out of Europe, right? NATO, right? The EU, right? That European lifestyle. What you hear today, let it be ignorant, let it be ignorant. But everybody knows this right here is the European lifestyle, right? And they go into perdition, right? But continue in verse 10 says, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen. One is talking about Rome, and the other is not yet come, right? And when he cometh, he must continue a short space, right? And the other night, that's talking about the British Empire. They did rule for a short time. That's why it was so easy for America to break away from them physically. But behind the scenes, they're still running things. That's why in Revelations 13 and verse 2, it says, read it again, right? The latter part of it, right? It says, in his mouth as the mouth of a lion, because that mouth is talking about Great Britain. Because behind the scene, they still they marching orders from England, right? And then it says and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. That dragon is talking about in this case represents the Roman Empire. because America is that revised Roman Empire, right? America is that revised Roman Empire that that's here today, right? And America's in that power seat of the Roman Empire, right? You know, therefore beast, right? So I do want to grab some that I'll read verse 3 where it says, "And I saw one in the head as it were wounded to death," right? Rome, and his deadly wound was healed, Renaissance, and all the world went after the beast. Everybody loved and wanted after American lifestyle, right? But America get all their ways and mimics all the ways of ancient Rome, right? The voting, the taxing, all of it, right? So let's jump down to verse. Just get to the point. Kind of moving fast for like a time, but just get to the point, right? Uh, verse 11, Revelation 13, 11, it says, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth," right? And it's talking about America. And he had two horns like a lamb. They go into the Democrat Republican Party, right? Two horns like a lamb. That lamb is talking about like representing that soft manner, how they speak, like, as if they care about you, right? As they got your best interest in mind, which they don't, right? He spake as a dragon, that draconian system, their draconian ways, their fierce and keenest ways, right? You know, those serpents, those big snakes, that serpents, man. Right, the devil, right? He says he exercised all power of the first beast before him, which is who? The Roman Empire. So he exercised all the power of the first beast, which is the Roman Empire, right? He said, "And caused the earth, all that dwell therein, to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed." Who's that first beast whose deadly wound was healed? The Roman Empire. But America is their rival Roman Empire, so they mimic all those ways and enforce all those things now. That's why you go to that new world order. That's why they're trying to fight for eternal life, right? Because they know our birthright. They know that we're going to be in rulership. That's why they're trying their best to hide this truth, to hide this knowledge, to hide this understanding, so that we can't receive this. Because they know once we receive it, understand who we are, they can't stop us. But as long as they keep us deceived and confused, they control and try to push that new world order, keep the people lost. Right, I always mention this, the slave owner, I think Willie Lynch, right? When he was talking about how, instead of just beating the slave, let's just control their mind. Because when we control their mind, we control them. That's why they want the digital chip. That's why they want to put those chips in you. They want to put those devices in you, which we see them more and more. I've seen a brother post, but I want to say it was UK. They're forcing that chip, man. They're enforcing that chip. They're getting it started, man. You know. And I was gonna do it. Lord willing, I still get around 12. I'm gonna do a lesson, going to Ezekiel 12. The days, the days are at hand. The effect of every vision, man. Habakkuk 2, right? They should not tarry, should wait for it, right? It's set for a appointed time. These visions are going to come to pass. That's why you got to send your watch tower, be prepared, man. Right? You can't get weary in this thing. You can't get sleep in this thing. Even me, even myself, right? Even brother, everybody, we got to stay on our watch tower. We got to stay focused. That's why we all need each other to stay strong and to keep going, because it's gonna get fierce. It's gonna get hard. For the ones who figure out about SIGH&CRY Festival, the ones who know the truth. It's gonna be a big test and a faith to come. If you think you're getting tested in the face now, the little temptation that we're facing, not saying like it ain't, brothers ain't facing certain things, but we gotta endure those things. But the temptation to come is gonna really test our faith. That fiery trial, Jacob's trouble, Esau coming down crazy. Hey man, we gotta prepare. You gotta stay focused, right? So and verse 13 says, "He doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth inside of men," right? And that's the war or whatnot, right? He says, "And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth." We know Revelation. I was talking about it, that devil who deceived the whole world. Esau, Edom, man, right? They came into power through the Greeks, right? And it's still in power today through the Romans, right? It says, "And deceiveth them that dwell on the whole earth by the means of those miracles." The miracles they're doing now, that technology. Right? They're doing a lot of technology now. That's why they're trying to make it a digital world, so they can fight for eternal life. Fight for this kingdom can last, that new world order. Right? It said, "Which had powers to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live." Right? So going from there, I want to go to 2nd Ezra 11. Right? I want to go to 2nd Ezra 11 because that kind of leads me to the point of lesson where I go. So understanding that fourth beast is the Roman Empire, we know that America comes out of that, right? America comes out of that, and America is that revised Roman Empire. That little horn, right? Daniel chapter 7, right? So, and understanding that the Rome is still and nothing new under the sun. The Romans are still in rulership. This is the revised Roman Empire, right? But what do how should I tell? Yeah. So when you go to 2nd Ezra 11, it's breaking down the 12 Caesars, right? You had 12. You had the eagle, which had 12 feather wings and 3 heads. 3 heads were Julius Caesar in the middle, right? You had Julius Caesar in the middle, right? So you have Julius Caesar in the middle, right? Then you have Pompey and Crassus, right? Because Julius Caesar, he was the most prominent one, right? Make sure I get it right. So here they go, right? So you had, here's that order. You had Julius Caesar, right? You had Augustus Caesar, right? 27 BC to 14 AD, right? He was in the ruler seat when he was in the ruler seat when he was in the ruler seat when Yahushua was born. You had Tiberius, 14 AD to 37 AD. You had Segula, 37 AD to 41 AD. Right, you can read about him in the time of Acts. Right, you had Claudius Caesar, 41 AD to 51 AD. You had Nero, who was in charge of the burning of Rome. It was really orchestrated by Nero. Right, he was the mastermind behind Rome being burnt and blaming it on us. Right, then you had the year of the four emperors, right? Well, you had four emperors really ruled in one year. It show you how they was modeling it, and you know how the spirit, how about was on them, right? Prophecy being done, right? They was killing each other, right? So you had Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and Vespasian, and he was key general under Nero, which led to the diaspora of them, the siege of Jerusalem, which was him, then his son Titus and Domitian, and that goes into the Flavian dynasty, Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian, right? So I'm gonna read you the 12 Caesars. Let's see, 12 Caesars in order, right? So you had Julius Caesar, Augustus Caesar, Tiberius Caesar, Claudius Caesar, Nero, right? And this goes into when I started Nero. These are the four. These are the four one that ruled in one year. The year of the four emperors. Nero, right? Actually not right. Actually not. This one goes into the after Nero, because Nero was causing a lot of problems, right? Through the spirit, how about y'all? You don't believe that Trump is the reincarnation of Nero, because we understand Vespasian is the reincarnation of Julius Caesar, right? But Nero, which is here today, was just Trump, right? Who's caused a lot of problems that led to the Julius rebellion. He sent Vespasian over there because Jews were revolting and whatnot, which led to and Vespasian ended up coming into rulership because that's when it goes into the year of the four emperors, which start with Galba, Ortho, Vitellius, then Vespasian come in, and Vespasian, and his son Titus, and the mission was later lead to, well, that's the Flavian dynasty, which lead to, the siege of Jerusalem, the Romans taking over Jerusalem, coming invading Jerusalem, sacking the temple, right, taking our people into captivity, which led to the diaspora, our people scattering all over, right, all type of things led to the falling away, understanding the history of it, right. So this is it goes, second Ezra 11 is breaking down there about the 12 Caesars, right? So going to it, right? And just understanding the history of Rome and, the first triumvirate, right? Where, they stopped the monarch, right? Hey, we're going to have one guy rule all year. What is that? That's first Maccabees, I want to say 15, let's see. It's like the first Maccabees 8 and 15, right? It says, moreover, how they did made for themselves a senate house, wherein 320 men sat in council daily, consulted always for the people, to the end they might be well ordered. They commit their government to one man every year, which America mimics this, right? That's why you got to understand the president is not elected, it's selected. You don't vote. They already have in mind who's gonna be the president. They already have this set. They just give you a false sense of hope that you're has a say so in this thing, but you don't have a say so in this thing, right? It says, and they committed their government to one man every year who ruled over all their country, and that they were all obedient to that one, and that there was neither envy nor emulation among them, right? Because you had, they was basically hating on Julius Caesar, right? So let's go back to Second Ezra 11, right? Second Ezra 11, right? And at verse right, we start at verse 37, right? It says, because it's going into how when Vespasian came in, Vespasian, who was the reincarnation of Julius Caesar, came in, he put the whole earth, in fear, right? He was coming down hard on Jake, starving them out, all that, making Jake weak. They knew that in order to sack the temple, in order to take down Jerusalem, they had to sack the temple, because Jerusalem was heavily guarded, man. We the people who chose people for Yahweh Shah. Jerusalem's the favorite land of Yahweh Shah, right? That's why we're gonna tear. That's why it's gonna be torn down. It's gonna be rebuilt back up. It's gonna be like the headquarters of the kingdom, right? The capital city of the kingdom, right? But he knew that in order to take it over, they had sat the temple and not, so he made Jay weak. He came down fierce on Jay, right? So this is right. So this is right, going to verse 37, second Ezra 11:37, right? It said, and I beheld, and lo, as it were a roaring lion chased out of the wood. That roaring lion talking about Yahushua, which also shows in Revelation 5, where it talks about that lion who's able to open those seals. Who is that? Yahushua. So the roaring lion talking about Yahushua chased out of the wood. And I saw that he sent out a man's voice to the eagle and said, America, right, so this is World Lion talking about Yahushua from the tribe of Judah, and the eagle is the Roman Empire. That's like what is that? Ain't that the American symbol, the bird, the eagle, right? Gotta pay attention to it, right? And he returned to the second Rome. He returned to the second Rome, right? Which is what? America today, right? He sent out a voice to him, right? The way he said, hear thou, I will talk with thee, and the highest shall say unto thee, art not thou it that remaineth of the four beasts, right? The four beasts, right? You got the Assyrians, the Persians, the Greeks, and the Romans. You got a little horn, right? And you got Rome with that little horn, right? Which Rome come back to America, which is today the Roman Empire. Art thou the remains of that four beasts, right? Whom I made reign in my world, that the end of their times might come through them, right? So the end of the time is gonna come through them. Second Ezra, right? For Jacob, for Esau, the end of the world, Jacob is the beginning of it that follows, man. Their end is gonna come through them. Right, you have these people who, the Edomites already go, no, the Edomites are here today. They're in rulership, right? The Edomites are the wicked. The earth is in the hands of the wicked, right? So the earth is in the hands of the wicked. Who run the earth? Because ain't the Edomites, or then Malachi chapter 1 verse 4, then they say that they're the border wicked, known as the wicked. They're the apostle Roman. I put this in ChatGPT. So if the earth is in the hands of the wicked and the Edomites are the wicked, who run the earth? Come on, man, right? It says I have made them reign in my world, that the end of their time might come through them. Right? So the end of their time is going to come through them. He says, and the fourth came and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world, was great feared. And we know that's America today, man. Right? This whole compass, because that little horn had to rule. And that's talking about America. And that was Babylon, right? Babylon was America. That's where Esau had the fullness, north, south, east, to west, where his policies dominated. Right, all over. Habakkuk 2 verse 5 talk about it. He go all over, and he had these nations to drink of that wine. And wine is his policy, his way. Hey, do this. Hey, do that. And you want your nation to run right. America got that big say so over the whole world, man. Right? America, NATO, EU, they got control over everything. Right? It says, had the power of the world with great fearfulness over the whole compass of the earth, with much wicked oppression, and so long time dwelt he upon the earth with the sea. And the line one, but you gotta understand, you're gonna be ignorant, but America, like Apostle Hart always say, man, America get the cold, everybody else get the flu. America got that influence on the whole world. Revelation 17 talks about it. How he got all the kings of the earth drunken with his fornication, drunken with his way, because America helped these countries get rich. America helped these countries. I just did this yesterday, going into the costliness. Right, America helped these countries get rich. America helped these countries get this money, so these countries don't care about laying down with America, giving in to the beast, giving their power to the beast, because America is benefiting them, right? And scripts tell you that, but how I said, and the end gonna come through them, right? The end is gonna come through them. It's gonna be destruction unto them. That's why the Most High allowed them to be into rulership. That's why the Most High allowed America to be in the seat. Babylon's a golden cup and Lord's hand. The Most High put them in this position. Right? So he can see who remain focused, to see who can stay focused on their passage. But the end is going to come through Esau Edom. It's going to come through this empire, that the end might come through them. Right? So let's jump over to chapter 12 and let's read start at verse 31. Right? It says, and the lion whom thou sawest rising up out of the wood, talking about Yahushua, and roaring and speaking to the eagle, was talking about the Roman Empire, which is America today, and rebuking her for her unrighteousness with all the words which thou hast heard. Right? So rebuking her, because all the way, what is that today? Right? Then Proverbs 1 say, turn ye my reproof, I'll be my word known unto you. How did Yahweh do that? Because the mouth of the Lord right now is his prophet. Right? Us on the highways and byways prophesying, speaking down for his kingdom. We're rebuking this place. And that's why the scriptures say to give warning to Jake, right? Because there's going to be destruction upon this place. There's going to be judgment upon this place for the wickedness and the unrighteousness that this place has going on. That's why he said, Micah 2:10, depart from this not to rest. Because you caught up in this place, you're going to be destroyed right along with it. Because this place is going to be destroyed and inhabited. Only thing that's going to be here is foul birds, foul spirits, foul animals, man. Revelations, Revelations, if I'm not mistaken, right? It's going to be destroyed, right? It says, this is the anointed, right? Hamashiach, right? Which the highest has kept for them for their wickedness, right? Which is, what is that? Isaiah 14, right? Isaiah 42 and 14, Slaki, right? Yahweh Shah talk about how he kept his patience, right? Because you got to understand, first Yahweh Shah came with the message, right? But our people gave him up into the Romans. Our people gave Yahweh Shah up to the Romans, right? They persecuted, did all these things, right? He said he kept his patience. He been waiting. He waiting to bring that. He waiting to bring the destruction on this place. That's why he said every eye shall see him, even the ones who pierced him, right? You know, and those ones who gave him up, they said, you don't believe in me, you shall die in your sins. He's gonna bring that judgment upon him. Because the first time he came with the message, this time he come with that destruction. He come with that judgment. He come with a sword, right? He said, this is the anointed which the highest has kept for them for their wickedness until the end. He shall reprove them and shall upbraid them with their cruelty. For he shall set them before him alive in judgment and shall rebuke them and correct them. For the rest of my people, he shall deliver with mercy. And that's starting with the elect. The elect will be delivered, and those 2/3 go to the judgment first, but then they're going to be delivered as well, brought into the kingdom through the elect seed. He said, those that have been pressed upon my borders, he shall make them joyful, because we're going through hardship. We're going through this suffering every day. That's what we got to do, so because Yahweh Shah went through it, but Yahweh Shah is going to bring that recompense. You know, he's gonna avenge us, right? Luke 18:7. He's going to avenge us for all the things that happened unto us, right? It says, he shall make them joyful until the coming of the day of judgment, wherefore I speak unto them, wherefore I have spoken unto thee from the beginning. This is the dream that thou sawest, and these are the interpretations. Thou only hast been meant to know the secret of the highest. Therefore write all these things that thou hast seen in the book, and hide them, and teach them to the wise of the people, that's the elect. Because everybody ain't going to be able to understand this. Everybody going to be able to get it. You know, only the elect will be able to receive it, right? He says, and teach them to the wise of the people whose hearts, right, thou knowest may comprehend and keep these secrets. That heart going to your mind. We understand it spiritually. We understand it now, understand through the spirit. When Paul said, I bear witness to my conscience, right? Let's see. I want Isaiah 34 in my spirit, right? Isaiah 34 verse 5, right? It says, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven, and behold, it shall come down upon Idumea. Idumea is the Greek way to say what? Edom, right? And upon the people of my curse to judgment, right? So the end gonna come to them. The end's gonna come to them, the Edomites, right? How can you say the Edomites done away with? If the Edomites, right? Let's go to Malachi 1 and 4, right? It says, whereas Edom said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build desolate places. This says the Lord, Yahweh of hosts. They shall build, but I will throw down. They shall call them the border of wickedness, people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever. Indignation, what? Righteous judgment, righteous anger. Because look at all the things they've done. Riches got by deceit, all these type of things. But if they're the border of wickedness, right? If Edom is the border of wickedness, and the earth is in the hands of the wicked, then who are the Edomites, man? Right? You can try to look bad. You can try to look bad. They running from their judgment. That's why they're trying to new world order, right? That's why they're trying to new world order. That's why they're trying to they best to keep this truth hidden. They try their best to stop, but they can't, right? What is the remember Acts chapter 5, right? I get straight to the point. In verse 39, right, it says, I start verse 38. It says, now I say unto you, refrain from these men, because this is when they try to lock Peter and the apostles up, right? For speaking the truth, teaching the name of Yahweh Shah. They telling them to stop, and they ain't stopping. And the righteous Pharisee, he giving them examples of men who tried to come against this truth, come against his word, and they was fucked up. They got fucked up by it, right? So he telling them, right? He says, and now I say to you, refrain from these men and let them alone. For if this counsel or this work be of men, it will come from naught. Meaning, if this counsel work be something they made up, it come from them, then that shit be shut down. It'll come to naught. It won't be nothing. Right? It's like he said, but if it be of Yahweh, ye cannot overthrow it. They cannot overthrow the truth, because the truth is come from Yahweh Shah. It's the truth of Yahweh Shah. He just gave us the spirit and knowledge and understanding to understand it. And that's what gives us comfort. That's what gives us hope, right? Romans 15:4, right? These things of old have been brought back to our memory, so now we can prophesy and teach and bring back the elect, gather the nation back together, all the nation, not just Southern King, not Northern King, all the nation. That's why you gotta understand it's the time of Jacob's trouble, not just Judah, not just Benjamin, not just Ephraim. No, it's time of Jacob's trouble because we all going to go through this, but we all going to be delivered, beginning with the elect, right? It says, lest he be happily found to even fight against Yahweh, right? And I also want to go to this real fast, 2nd Ezra 6 and verse 9, right? It says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows, man. So you got to understand the end going to come through them, man. That fourth beast, right? That little horn that comes out, that fourth beast is America. That fourth beast is Roman, the Roman Empire, which is still here today. America, that revives Roman Empire, man. And the end is going to come through them. Yahweh is going to bring judgment on them, right? As you read Isaiah 34, right? 5, right? You know, Malachi 1 and 4, eat on that wicked, the earth's in the hands of the wicked, and the Most High is going to bring that judgment on the wicked, man. You're going to bring that destruction upon them, right? They can try their best to try to run and hide from it, but they ain't. They ain't going to be able to run from it, right? Matter of fact, I'm going to read this. Yeah, right. This is Revelation 14, verse 8. It says, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the third angel followed him, saying with a loud voice, if any man worships the beast in his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the cup, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahweh, which is poured out without mixture into a cup of his indignation, righteous anger. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of his holy angels and the presence of the Lamb, right? Because Yahweh Shai and the angels are going to come bring that destruction, going to come bring that, you know, that perdition upon this place, right? You understand, you know, that America is that eighth head that comes from that seventh head, which is Great Britain, that goes into perdition. Ever since America came into rulership, it's been dying. It was set to go in perdition for John. You've seen it come back into power. And when John wrote the vision, Revelation 17, when he's writing it, he's seeing Rome in rulership. He see them leave and come back through America, but y'all talks about how they gonna go into perdition, how they gonna go into destruction, man. That's why Yahweh told him the end gonna come. Are you not the fourth beast is allowed to rule over my world? And the end might come through you, right? So that's that cup that they ain't gonna be able to pour it out. They gonna have to drink it. They ain't gonna be able to run from it. They can't stop it, man. That's why they been exposed now. They been made bare. They panicking. That's why they trying their best to push the new world order, push the things that's going on. You know, we gotta pay attention to the times and the signs around us, man. We gotta be in that watchtower. Now's the time of more, right? You know, y'all done mentioned this before. You know, even with me being a collegiate athlete playing college football, you know, things around can seem busy or alone and whatnot, but Lord willing, the spirit of discernment, we all got gifts. You gotta have that spirit of discernment. I remember Pastor Hall talking about this one time, right? You gotta have that spirit of discernment. You know, if most I dealing with you have that spirit of discernment of things not going on. Like, hey, I need to study, or hey, I need to do a lot. I need to stay focused, stay tuned in, right? Be tuned in with the elders, right? Tune in with the elders, man. The elders be tuned in a lot. That's what they're here for. You have those watchmen. You have those men who set up to help us stay focused through the spirit of SIGH&CRY, right? Real fast. This is the precept, right? Just moving through the spirit, man. Right? Philippians 3 and 17, it says, brethren, be followers together of me, is how it's talking, right? And mark them, it says, brethren, be followers together of me, right? It says, actually this, I want to say this, Philippians, this is Paul talking. Yeah, this is Paul talking, right? But you know, Paul is a righteous man of Yahweh SIGH&CRY. It says, brethren, be followers together of me, and mark them which is walk so as he slacking. Brethren, be followers together of me, and mark them which walk also as ye have for us as an example. Right? So walk in the path of Yahweh SIGH&CRY, man. The author and finisher of our faith. Right? You gotta walk in the path of Yahweh SIGH&CRY. You gotta walk in the faith of the sister. Find the old path and walk therein. Jeremiah 6 and 16. You gotta find the old path and walk therein, man. Right? I'm gonna jump down to verse 20. It says, for our conversations in heaven. That conversation goes into what? Citizenship. Right? We should be speaking, talking of things of the kingdom, right? We should be talking about things of that. We should be focused on things that, because all this is corruptible. All these things are going to be destroyed, going to be done away with. We focus on the kingdom of Yahweh SIGH&CRY, the righteousness of Yahweh SIGH&CRY, right? It says, for our conversations in heaven, from whence also we look for the Savior, the Lord, Yahweh Mashiach, right? We're going to be changed, man. Right? But we got to stay focused. But understand the title lesson, you know, are you that force be that remainest, right? Because, hey, the end gonna come through them, man. So stay focused, man. Because it's gonna be destruction coming through, but it's gonna be a lot of, you know, that sword is ready. You know, we always got to understand Esau, the Most High swore his word. Esau gonna come through on one because the Most High gonna put the spirit on them to come through on one, right? They're gonna come through with great wrath, right? Because they know they're running out of time. Revelation 12:12. They know their kingdom over with. They're gonna try to fight for this kingdom, and they're gonna be. They see how shot. What is that? Second Ezra 13. That war in heaven. When they see how shot in the chariot fill the sky, they're gonna be scared to fight. But the Most High gonna put the spirit on them to fight, man. But they gonna get their ass tormented, their ass punished. But the Most High gonna put the spirit on them to fight, right? It's prophecy, man. That's why Lord willing, right? I read it real fast. We'll still do a lesson on it, Lord willing. The spirit leads to it, but this is Ezekiel chapter 12, man. Ezekiel chapter 12 and I start at verse 22, right? It says, "Son of man, what is this proverb that you have in the land of Israel, saying the days are prolonged, every vision faileth," right? Because they ain't seeing anything happen just right away. They feel like they got time. They feel like everybody. That's that flesh. You can't move in that flesh. You gotta move in the spirit. Understand? You gotta stay walking that light, walking that narrow passage, man. Right? That's that darkness only within you that's trying to keep you confounded and keep you in the ways of the world. That's how Jake think. Oh, I got time. Ain't nothing happened yet. Right? Most I ask him, like, why do people think ain't nothing happened? Because the people clown them saying, oh, you keep saying everything's gonna happen to us, but ain't nothing happened yet, right? So it says, tell them therefore, this that the Lord Yahweh, I will make this proverb to cease. And they shall no more use it as a proverb in Israel, but say unto them, the days are at hand, and the effect of every vision. The effect of every vision, man. Therefore, appointed time. You see, what really sparked this when I watched lesson from the elder apostle Rumlot, but I also seen a brother post about how UK. I want to say it was UK. Can't remember what city it was UK, but they're starting that chip. They're starting to put the digital chip in people's hand, man. Revelation 13:16, man, it's coming. So you want to be focused. The days are hand, the effect of every vision. You want to be on that watchtower, but understanding that these things are happening, you're gonna start to see these signs of wonder show that Yahweh Shai is getting closer and closer. It's getting closer time to our deliverance, man. The days we get close to our deliverance because these are prophecy of things that's going to come to pass they're going to show us that our time is getting nearer and nearer to be delivered from this place. Yeah, it's going to be hardship and destruction and a lot of things that come, but that's the things we got to endure. That's the things we got to take on the chin. That's the things we got to take on with great faith through the Spirit, probably how about Shai, right? So Lord willing, right? This lesson was edifying and exalting. Right, and I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to the Hopefully Last Star with the 144,000. Shalom.